this computer. And now we're going to go to the face melt. What? Will not be accessible on Samsung. Nice. What's happening? Whoa. Oh, something happened. Hold on. Pearson. One moment. Let me try this again. Why did it go? It tried to go to my personal one. Hold on. Live on Facebook. Share to a page you manage. Console next. Oh, it's not even giving me an option. We're just going live. All right. No. It's saying not accessible. What is going on? Nope, we're good. We're golden. Let me put in a title. And all right, going live. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the live on Facebook. Okay, welcome to Fellow Smelt, everybody. We made it. Welcome to V.A.C. Roundtable number 10. Yay, we're this many. No, congratulations, everybody. Thank you for being here. Of course, today we're going to be discussing, as we promoted, we're going to be discussing veterans service organizations. So as we know, when we go through the military, we have access, like when you get to the age of 50, you can join AARP. As soon as you're done the military, depending on where you're and what you served in. If you've been in combat or been in combat theaters, you know, there's the American Legion and the VFW. And of course, there's also AMVETS, which is one for kind of all veterans. I also belong to an organization called the Veterans for Peace. Which necessarily doesn't have the type of offices or chapters that necessarily in one of the larger ones, but I appreciate what they're going for and what they're trying to do. So, you know, each one of us votes with their own dollars. So a lot of these veteran service organizations are monthly. There is also the option to buy lifetime memberships. So I have lifetime memberships in 4 different organizations. So I like to keep up on as best as possible what's happening with veterans and veterans issues. And I'm as disappointed and frustrated by the lack of movement on many different levels, not including the one that we're working toward with cannabis. So veteran service organizations are a very interesting discussion, and one that we kind of wanted to start to open up about. Some of us have had amazing experiences with veteran service organizations. Others have had frustrating and non-good necessarily interactions with veteran service organizations. So tonight we're going to start with what are our views on veterans service organizations. So we're going to start with Tony Landry. Welcome, Tony.
Hey, thank you, Aiken. Pleasure to be here tonight. And I like the veteran service organizations. I've been a member of the American Legion for, you know, in my hometown community back in Louisiana, and served on there. We had an honor guard that we did, you know, a service for deceased veterans, for their families. We go out and honor them, you know, so they serve a very integral part in the community, you know, so I'm all for them. I just think, you know, for 100 years, they've been helping veterans have a place to congregate. And, you know, part of that's been, some of the posts have alcohol there, And some of the posts here in Tucson, they don't allow medication. You know, we're not asking to tell them when to take an aspirin if they have a hangover from their alcohol. We don't bother with them, but we can, as veterans, go in there and medicate with medicine, just recognized medicine. So I think they need to improve things to bring. It's been around for 100 years. We got another 100 years to look at, and plant medicine is here to stay, and cannabis is here to stay. So I think the National American Legion needs to do a better job of reaching out to the post, raising their awareness of cannabis as a medicine.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate your thoughts. We're going to go over to Council Member Rico Pereira.
Gracias, señor. What do I think about VSOs? First, I think not all VSOs are created equal, right? But they do, each one of them serve their purpose, I hope, which is to provide a safe place for veterans to go and meet other veterans and hopefully engage with the community through community service projects or health and welfare events and stuff like that. I mean, you have Team RWB, which I look at as a veteran service organization, right? They do great work, getting veterans out, getting them active, meeting one another. I look at the Mission Continues as a veteran service organization as well, right? They rally up, do great work in their community. The VFW helped me out personally when I first got back from Iraq, process my paperwork with the VA. So I'll always be grateful for that. But like Tony said, there's a point where after you get told, you know, you're not welcome enough, you believe them, right? And you just stop going. So with respect to like the VFWs and American Legions and whatnot, they don't agree with me using cannabis, and that's fine. I could respect that, but I don't necessarily want to show up and be in that environment either. So it's kind of a catch-22. I want to support them, but then I'd like for them to support me as well. You know what I mean? So.
And we'll get into deeper dive on exactly that. So up next will be Council Member Michael Prowitz.
Yeah, man, thanks. So thinking about veteran service organizations, I realize I have kind of two files in my brain. So I'll talk about the personal file first and then the sort of organizational file second. But on the personal file, I'm like you guys. I mean, like Ricardo was just saying, I owe a debt to the service organization that helped me, you know, file all the paperwork and stuff. But it was more than that. With my particular case, I had actually gone round and round with the VA on my claim, the percentage and it, you know, the folks there at the American Legion felt that I needed to, you know, appeal. So I appealed, and I don't know, it was like 10 years of going back and forth with them. And then I actually went into, it was such a strange circumstance because I went into the office one day and I ran into a fellow that was very friendly that I had seen years earlier, who was a really nice guy and very, very competent. And I guess he had gone off to management or something, and he just happened to be there. And I walked in and talked to him, and he said, "You're still working on that? Let me take a look at that." He pulls up my case and looks at it. He said, "You know what? There's two different claims that seem to apply to your case. So rather than you know, appealing it, let's just put in a correction form." And puts in a little slip of paper, correction form. Like 3 days later, I get a notice that my correction had been accepted and that my file had been corrected. no 6-month appeal process, all this, you know, several days after 10 years of fighting, and my case was finally resolved. So it is quite amazing. I think my experience definitely told me, and this is what I tell other vets, you know, to try to find a veteran service organization that you're comfortable with. Try to find one that, you know, someone, particularly a specific individual, if you can, that others have found to be really helpful, and try to, you know, find someone through that kind of referral, because there may be quite a bit of variance between different people that you work with. evidently, as to how they approach things. On the organizational side, Veterans for Medical Marijuana Access back in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Now we call it Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access, basically interchangeably, but cannabis is a more accepted term than marijuana in most of the circles that we travel in. We own the words either way. But the organization was set up. Marty Chilcutt got a grant from Marijuana Policy Project to actually go out and get veteran service organizations to sign on to resolutions supporting safe access to cannabis for veterans. Seems like a no-brainer, such an easy lift, but he couldn't do it. Marty couldn't do it at the time. This is back around 2006, whatever, 2007. The veteran service organizations, just like the VA itself, would turn you away from the door if you started talking about marijuana. They'd say it's illegal under federal law. We're a federal entity. We deal with the federal government every day. We can't start working on illegal drug stuff. That's going to jeopardize our ability to work on important veterans issues. And a little side note on that, I don't think it's ever been easy for veterans to get, as I understand, I'm not a big historian on this, but as I understand it, going all the way back to General George Washington and then President George Washington, there was some issues about trying to get veterans their proper benefits. And it seems like every time there's maybe 10 years or more since the last war, you can watch it. Just mark your watch. After 10 years after the last war, the benefits just start disappearing. The interest in veterans benefits disappear, but the veterans don't disappear. We don't just disappear after 10 years. So that's a constant fight, and we definitely depend on the veteran service organizations for that, that support. But anyway, back to the Veterans for Medical Marijuana Access. As you guys know the history, we got the VA policy back in 2010, and then we started to be able to talk to veteran service organizations about this. The first organization that we worked with was, I think it was actually Veterans for Peace. And we got together with Veterans for Peace. We did do a resolution finally. The Afghanistan and Iraq Veterans Service Organization never really put out a full-on resolution, but they have documentation that supports medical access to cannabis, and they've answered good questions and been available to the media, consulting them on the need for cannabis access to veterans. So they've been very helpful. Iraq Veterans Against the War, fledgling organization, has been extremely supportive. The AMVETS and American Legion and VFW all have had efforts internally to work on cannabis issues that have never really broken through at the national level. There's some promise now for AMVETS to maybe do this in real time. Last couple of years, the ball was being carried by American Legion, and they did carry the ball. I mean, when you got American Legion sitting there in the room with the president and being able to bring this up casually in a meeting, that's not nothing. We appreciate that. And we appreciate everything that American Legion did. Unfortunately, they backed off. They've got very conservative, older veterans involved in a lot of these veteran service organizations that get very upset and get very protective of their, institution, really, and their hard work, very validly so. If they feel it's being threatened by political action that might take them in a direction that's not really where the organization needs to go to maintain its relationships with government and everything else. It's complicated. I accept that it's complicated, and I don't let them off the hook though. I'm like others on the call that the veteran service organizations have a dance, but we're the veteran. This is something that we found necessary. In an area that, I'll leave you off with this. I had this conversation, I told Ricardo about it the other day. I sat across from the head of the American Legion political wing, and he read off, ticked off this whole list of great, things that veterans really appreciate about the veterans' care at the VA hospitals. Often they're given all these poll questions, did they treat you on time? Did they treat you with respect? Did they, whatever? And they do very well. And then I'm sitting there on my side of the table and I'm like, wait a minute, I've got my own list where veterans are leading in homelessness, leading in overdose, leading in suicide. Where does that show up on your list? We need to sit down and compare lists because this isn't working for us. And that's I think, where we're at. We're part of the, the 1% of the 1%. And we're trying to drag the rest of the community with us, but they need to come with us. They need to help figure this out. We're the sort of the tip of the iceberg of a problem that gets really difficult to deal with when you get down deep, but it's not one that they can ignore or that we can ignore. So anyway, that's kind of the big picture. I don't think there's any other service organizations that we've been able to work with on a national front. We have had some contact with other countries, and that's, you know, one last note I'll leave you with quickly. Working with other veterans in other countries around the world, we get a lot more respect for our veterans' needs and stuff in the USA than many other countries around the world. And in fact, other countries around the world, you know, being a veteran is just basically like having any other, you know, ex job, any other former career. I mean, it's not really given as any kind of special status, which I think it should be. You know, you're definitely taking on a risk for society, and you know, whether you're sort of a volunteer force or a draft force or whatever, military is defending your country and taking up arms and risking your life in a way that's, I think, unique, and it should be dealt with uniquely. My feeling, anyway.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your feelings. That's why we're having this discussion, because it's a whole bunch of perspectives that brings us and will hopefully educate people to bring them to a further understanding. Next, we're going to go to the Brian Buckley. Welcome, council member.
Thank you, sir. Today? I'm good. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been kind of racking my brain with this one. You know, I think VSOs, I think they definitely serve a really good purpose. I believe their hearts are in the right direction. I'm not going to say I'm a big user of them. You know, the VFW helped me out get to a point where I was with my disability claim. I did have to kind of go above and beyond a little bit on my own to get everything that I deserved. And that kind of drove me to kind of move in some of the initiatives that I started going towards. But I do know, you know, I literally was just having a conversation up here with one of the guys as part of our company. And he was saying, hey, the VFWs really kind of picked up their game with disability benefits. And, you know, we've actually are pushing them to some of the VFWs, and they've been really just like lights out. So whatever happened there, I think that's just great. You know, I think you should do whatever it has to take for a veteran. I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of the, you know, I would say like maybe some of the global war and terrorism veterans are kind of growing up a little bit more and getting some more roles into those spots. Leadership wise, where maybe they kind of understand some of the PTSD ramifications and things of that nature, making sure the veterans are getting the support they can. But, you know, I think also too, it's like, I don't visit like a VFW or American Legion. I don't like go there, but I think it's a great option for veterans to go and to talk with other veterans. The worst thing you can do as a vet is isolate yourself. So if that means it gets you in there and you can hang out, and that's great. I'm just saying some of them don't meet the needs that I want. And, you know, I know some of us on here, we're going to have different initiatives and we'll take care of what we need. You know, by through or with, we're going to get this thing done. But definitely, I think they'll continue to get better. I believe that everyone has their heart in the right direction, and, you know, just a little more education. And, you know, definitely if you need someone to reach out to, you know, go to the VF. Like I said, I'll go to the VFW, and it seems like they're kind of turning on. So, sorry, not super enlightening, but that's all I got.
We're not looking for enlightening. We're just having a conversation, but it is enlightening nevertheless. So guns out, fun's out. All right. We'd like to welcome the George Armstrong. Welcome, council member. What are your thoughts on VSOs?
Well, thank you. So I would say VSO. So I'm going to start with a story. When I was active duty, shortly after the Gulf War, I was playing in a softball game. And when we came in from our defensive inning, there was a guy trying to recruit people for the VFW, literally because their membership had really gone down since the Vietnam War, because obviously veterans for foreign wars, they had their membership had taken a beating. And when he got to me, I quickly told him that I didn't go to Kuwait or Iraq. So he literally said, well, you can't join then, and went to the next guy. So that was probably a year and a half or 2 years before I got out. That always gave me kind of a bad taste in my mouth about those particular organizations. So that was my personal experience with the national organization, let's just say, when I was in. So I was left with that when I got out. AMVETS would be the organization that non-combat vets like myself would go to, and we didn't have one of those in my town. So I didn't really have, honestly, a lot of options when I got out. I used the VFW just like most of the rest of the people in my town. It was another bar. They had a softball field, so my softball games were there. You know, stuff like that. It did not seem like an organization that was pushing for our current veterans. So I didn't get involved in the VFW for those reasons. But like like everybody else has said, they definitely have their place. And obviously the vets that need the help most are the ones that have served in combat and come back and are trying to get these benefits, most and a lot of which are tied to disabilities from combats. So I think they have a place. I think that a lot of them are going on an older style. So they were great for the World War II vets, and those organizations blew up during that time. And I think as the Vietnam vets came in, it slowly started going down. And I don't know if there's a disconnect and if there's a way that we can reconnect with those particular VSOs. I think that's the road we want to try, obviously. We don't want to count them out. As Michael said, these are national organizations that have a seat at the table that we want to be a part of. So I don't want to talk bad about any of the VSOs. For me personally, they haven't provided what I needed, not just on the cannabis, but so that's where I'm at with the large VSOs. I'm also a member of like Veterans for Peace, and I would say the smaller veteran service organizations that are tied to cannabis, I would like to see some of those get bigger, because I've seen them really, the smaller VSOs, really making things happen on the ground, when the bigger ones might seem to be bogged down with the political or whatever you want to call it stuff.
Well, thank you, council member. We'll pivot to Alaska, to the Pearson Crosby. Welcome, Pearson. What are your thoughts on veteran service organizations, sir?
Well, I don't know if anybody knows this, but I'm kind of I've gotten around, for lack of better words, with veteran service organizations. Just a little background. The Marine Corps League, was senior vice commander or commandant for 3 years. Team Red, White, and Blue up here in Fairbanks. I was the Veterans Outreach Director for 2 years. Currently the senior vice commander of the Golden Heart Post up here in Alaska, up here in Fairbanks, most northern in the world, actually. I'm a member of the American Legion. I was part of Mission Continues when that platoon started up in Philly, which I enjoyed. DAV handled my VA claim. George, two things I want to mention to you. Sorry, I made a note on this before I forget. The the VFW, you do qualify for the VFW as a member, but as a auxiliary member. Just FYI. Not trying to persuade you into anything right now, but I just I don't want to forget to say that to you. The recruiter was just recruiting for the post apparently. So yeah, I've gotten around. My first interaction with the VFW in Yardley, Pennsylvania, my uncle was the commander, and it was by far the most impressive organization I've ever seen. Hands down, with veteran service organizations, anything that I mean, almost to this day, I mean, not even almost, I can't think of anything that had that type of military bearing, that type of membership professionalism. They were in the front of the pack in every parade. They did every ceremony, and it was something that was, you know, I was in awe of how like 60 members in at each monthly meeting, which is crazy. We got like 400 members up here in Fairbanks. We get maybe 6. Like last year's I got voted in with like 2 votes, you know, so it's nothing to beat my chest over, but you know, it's something that it really depends on the community, how much the community puts in is how much you get out, how much the officers are willing to go out of their way, how much training they're willing to give, or how much guidance. That's the biggest issue, is the lack of guidance that is given to the new guys. I mean, that's something that I face a lot. The Marine Corps League was great, obviously, because it's a bunch of Marines. You know, you can never go wrong with that. But no, seriously, the Marine Corps League, we have a certain way of doing things in the Marine Corps where everybody has to know each other's jobs, and you're pretty much taken under your wing. And then and maybe that would be so with a strictly, I know there's like a 101st Airborne organization. There's a 82nd. I'm sure there's a Navy ship, or even SEAL teams that get together, or SEAL battalions, or whatever. Excuse me, but that it really, you know, kept it simple, stupid for me with the Marine Corps League. But they're not. And if I'm going into one of the next questions, just tell me to shut up and I'll stop. And that's really it. Like, what I've found is that it doesn't matter what organization it is. If they're a big national organization, it matters what the captain or the commander or the commandant or the president puts into it. What the people that are willing to put into it, the members, what they're willing to put into it is what you get out of it. Now with the DAV has a constitutional. There's a bill that's been passed for the DAV that they have to be in every single regional office for the VA in the VA system. So that's where I could, unless you have a really like shit hot service officer in one of the organizations, go to the DAV, because they're trained very professionally. They always have access to the system. Unlike me, I've been the service officer at the VFW for 3 years, and I get laughed at every time I ask for training. And now, I mean, I've gotten good training as a tribal veterans representative for Alaska, and that's through the VA. That was two day class. It was pretty intensive. And they offer like follow-on classes and stuff. So that's pretty cool. But DAV is the way to go with trying to get your claims in, and trying to figure out, you know, what options you have, or what benefits you do have when you get out. Yeah, I think I'm gonna shut up now.
Well, thank you, council member. I appreciate you. So that leaves it to me. What do I think about veteran service organizations? Well, I grew up in very, very rural Louisiana. So rural, my graduating high school class was 19 people, public school. So very rural America. Big city was 9-10 miles away. But in the big city, you know, there of Franklin, Louisiana, you know, there was an American Legion post. There was also a VFW post, and they sponsored Little League games. They sponsored Little League teams. They sponsor basketball teams. They sponsor football teams. Everywhere USA that I've traveled, I've seen, you know, these organizations there, and they spread, you know, love regionally and locally, especially. I will still always say, if you've got a ticket to food at a VFW American Legion, I'll take 10, because I'm happy to help out, and there's usually some damn good cooks on there. Don't get me wrong, I've had some sawdust chicken before. I've taken my sacrifice for humanity, but at the same time, you know, they do a lot of good things locally. So, I mean, before I knew what a Veterans for Foreign VFW was, or an American Legion, I had seen it plastered all over, you know, as a youth, be it good, bad, ugly, indifferent, etc. So they're out there, they're everywhere. And for me, I kind of had some frustrations. Being a Gulf War veteran and being diagnosed with Gulf War illness, back then it was syndrome. You know, I had 3 different VSOs lose my paperwork along the way. And finally, I got it through on the 4th one myself. And then I finally got classified as a Gulf War veteran. But then next time I came in, I started talking about my medical cannabis, and they're like, no benefits for you. You're now a known drug user. You're done. Get out of here. So there was no VSO to back me up. There was no VSO that was going to be like, you're right, kid, just because you're smoking pot to get off all these opiates and you asked to get off this morphine that would give you more than enough ample supply that you could sit there and drool all over yourself for days on end. But, you know, I find cannabis and use it and try to discuss it, and you know, all of a sudden I'm made out to be a second-class citizen, now no longer worthy of my benefits. Okay, so it was very frustrating, and I can't imagine if those that want to start to breach the discussion regarding psychedelic usage, such as, oh yeah, I want to use mushrooms. It actually helped me. I had a great experience on it. You know, I had LSD. I had a most wonderful epiphany, and I came to peace with myself and the universe, and me killing people in strange lands and accepting my reality in the universe. You know, I did ketamine, so you know, I was able to transverse the, you know, everything along the world. You know, I took mushrooms and traversed the fungal terpenome in a way that now I have, you know, experiences that have made me healthy and whole. You know, we can't talk about that. We can't even talk about that with the VSOs. My experience with VSOs are really, I'm Gulf War veteran. So for me, when I transitioned into, I figured I'll go check out the local VFW hall there in Morgantown, West Virginia. And great guys there. There were about literally 2 Vietnam vets running the whole show. Okay. And I got to give credit to Vietnam vets. They were very embracing of my generation of soldiers. They were nothing but love and welcoming. They wanted us to, they tried so hard to not make us feel the way that they felt. And I will always send love and support to my Vietnam brothers and sisters who, you know, helped me realize and understand that. But it was not easy to deal with or to accept early on. So For me, my first experience there was watching two World War II vets sit at the bar, drinking dollar shots, 75-cent drafts all day long, because you're a veteran. So cheap ass alcohol. And these two old World War II veterans, only guys there, and they were comparing dick size over how many days they were in Canada. Well, I was in Europe for 485 days. Well, I was there for 503 days. So, and it was just watching them drunk argue. It was one of those moments where I was like, I don't think this is for me. I don't think I'm going to enjoy hanging out drinking with these guys. They look at me already like a horror story, like, what's this fucking kid doing here? Which, needless to say, isn't necessarily the most welcoming environment. But at the same time, hey, that's just how it was. And so I tried to accept it for what it was, but I realized quickly, if I really wanted to drink, and I was an alcoholic at the time, oh boy, I could drink on the cheap. I could stay sauced. Oh, I could bring onto myself a whole new level of alcoholism that I had not contemplated. But I fortunately realized, thanks to this, that wasn't for me. And I stayed away because for me, I just didn't want to be in service in the sense at the time. I guess I was struggling with being kicked out of the Army for positive urinalysis. I was kind of between, ashamed of being, losing my rank. And I mean, literally, I was getting the day of my actual promotion. I happened to smoke a joint on the way to formation. It was completely fine, would have been absolutely aces. But, hey, c'est la vie, I lost all my benefits. So, that's just how it goes. I was originally given a dishonorable discharge, but somewhere along the way, the military changed the coding, and now I have an honorable discharge with something attached to it. So, it's just, the reality of it. So there was no VSO that could speak up for me that would, or anytime I would breach it, they'd be like, we can't go there. Sorry, kid. This is, It only is in the last couple of years that we've actually been able to get veteran service organizations to have conversations with us. And some, like the American Legion, are actually, the brass are very receptive. However, the individual chapters on the ground are kind of old school. They've got their fully established bars and alcohol. And I'll be honest, I think they view us as a threat. That's a reality in the sense that, they're afraid of cannabis. And a lot of us would like a VSO that we could actually go to and self-medicate. I would actually go if I could I can smoke cigarettes. I could drink alcohol, both weak and absolutely, how many proof that you want. I don't think the only thing they didn't have on the bar was Everclear. Okay. So, wide berth of choices, again, pretty fucking cheap, which means they have established alcohol access and accessibility that, technically they could get with cannabis if they really wanted to or really cared. But, that's a discussion I think we're going to kind of get into, because if these VSOs, which there are, and they're dying all over the country, they're going out of business. You can probably look in your local newspaper or something right now and see how much your VFW hall or American Legion hall is and available. It's the pandemic hasn't helped it any better, because they were renting it out for bingos and dances and all kinds of stuff that you can't do. And they've been asking my generation and younger to please come to join our VSOs, but I don't think they provide the environment that a lot of us would like to see. Maybe they do, but that leads us into our question, which is, are you involved with a VSO? And it kind of goes from there. If so, which one? And if you're not, why or why not? So it's kind of a big question. So we're going to start off with the Tony Landry, council member. Come on down. You're the next contestant on you've got a question to answer.
Yeah, I'm a member of the local American Legion here in Tucson, Post 7. But there again, you know, it's the thing about they'll allow me to go in there and drink a beer, or you know, if I go to the post for one of their events and I'm hurting and I need cannabis, I'm not allowed, you know, and I just, you know, I can't support that. I can't go, you know, support their programs, be involved in their programs when, you know, a veteran is going through a chronic pain cycle or something. He needs quick access to medicine. You know, he needs to be able to medicate. And if you have an events in support of veterans and you're selling alcohol at the event, when I pulled up the VA's website, 65.4% of veterans that go into substance abuse treatment or alcohol compared to 37% of civilians. So alcohol is a big problem, you know, and I'm not anti-alcohol, you know, but I think, you know, we need a position in that veteran service organization as a medical cannabis patient. We need to get accepted. We can't go around there and hide, you know, our medication like it's a drug. You know, it's not. It's a medication now. And these opponents that are opposing us using medicine, you know, they're just not. They're not coming at. They're coming at it from Nixon era propaganda. You know, when he was going after hippies and people of color. You know, and it's time to change that narrative. Cannabis is helping veterans, and if they're standing up veteran service organization and supposed to be helping veterans, then they need to change their policy and accept veterans medicine.
Thank you very much, council member. I appreciate your words. We're going to go to now the Rico Prieta.
Yeah, I'm a life member of the VFW, right? But then I got really involved with the University of Arizona VSO, VETS, Veterans Education Transition Services, also the Student Veterans of America chapter that was there. And we did some really awesome work. I'm proud of the work that we did. We helped integrate veterans from the military into academia, right? And then into their professional life, and really walk them through the process in every step of the way. And I'm very proud of that work. However, with the VFW, you know, I really got tired of the snide remarks while watching people just bury their bullshit in bourbon, get there first thing in the morning and start chain smoking, gabbing about this, that, and whatever. And by like 2 o'clock, they're tanked. It's like, damn, man. And I was living that way too. And so like after I got my DUI, I had to really evaluate what the fuck I was doing, what I was about. I was in a leadership position on campus, right? I was myself glorifying the use of alcohol, even though I had already been through substance abuse treatment program. I knew damn well it wasn't good for me, but I was doing it anyway because for whatever reason, like I am an alcoholic. I like to drink. And once I start drinking, like I really like to drink. And it just, I fell back into it, fell back into some bad habits. The predictable happened. I got in trouble. It bit me. I had to pay for it. It took a long time to recover from it. And then after I recovered from it, I was like that, you know, once bitten, twice shy. And I don't want to be in that environment. And I know what's healthy for me. I know what healthy looks like for me. I know what a healthy environment feels like for me. And if I can't get that from an organization that I truly do love, I want to keep that brand. I love what they did for myself and others. The open door with a cantankerous veteran that's willing to help you fight a behemoth system. for free, right? Outside of dues and memberships and stuff like that. But man, it'd be really nice if they listened to us here, because we're onto something. And if they could just give their bars kind of a pause for a second and switch that shit out and just do a test run on themselves, see how happy their membership is, see how much their quality of life improves when you start weaning them off of alcohol and making it that you know what that place is all about. You know, air it out a bit, put some fresh paint in that motherfucker. I don't know, man, but we have some ideas. We are the younger generation. We're the ones reaching for the baton. It's a relay race. If you don't want to lose it, please help us carry it on. That's really, I think, the cry from what I have heard and from my own personal experience.
Thank you for your sharing. Now we'll go to the Michael Crowitz, council member.
Yeah, man. I haven't had a heck of a lot of personal interaction with the service organizations in my region. You know, over the years, I've dropped in, you know, from time to time again and had some meetings. So I guess I'm one of that sort of generation that has found very little use in that kind of environment, you know, and I think it has to do with where you live as well. My partner in Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access, Al Byrne, I know he has a really great local veterans hall that he goes to at least once a week. They have dinner. You know, it's a nice outing and everybody gets to see each other. It's really good. It's a good social venue. And I agree with Ricardo and others that this is something that we're really onto. I think it really is actually something that it's not just our preference that we'd like to do it for ourselves and like to see it, you know, because we like to do it, but actually it does seem like a good choice. It does seem like a good option, a good direction to go in, one where you could actually revive the whole experience in a more healthy, more productive way. I mean, that's the thing about cannabis. Most people have this misconception about cannabis, and the drug wars absolutely, you know, created and perpetuated those myths. And I guess people picture a bunch of people sitting around in a smoky room smoking marijuana cigarettes. But if you picture that, then you haven't really caught up with the times of what cannabis is these days and what cannabis products are these days and what our world has kind of evolved into. If you allow for a bunch of cannabis products and sort of, you know, emphasize that and away from alcohol, yeah, it's going to be a very different, very novel and a very new experience, not just for the vets, but for our community at large. We have not really embraced that sort of social club model of cannabis distribution and cannabis access like they have over in Europe. And what I feel here, what I hear from you guys, and what I feel is an emerging need and a call for a social club model in the United States. And perhaps the VFW hall could be the first model, or the first pilot for that kind of an idea here in the USA.
Well, somebody's going to have to, you know, if somebody isn't, somebody have to create their own. This about time, we'll go over to council member Brian Buckley.
Yeah, much like we've already heard, I really haven't had much use where I go into any of these VSOs or places like that. You know, I will share like a really like very good story. We just got back from Afghanistan in 2012, and we were just kind of tooling around. And one of the guys that was with us, he was paralyzed probably about 4 or 5 months, you know, prior to all of us coming back. So it was his first time out with all of us, and we're having a good time, and wanted to go into the VFW, and I just kind of knocked on the door, and we weren't members or anything, and just kind of said who we were, and they kind of gave me like a little stink eye, and I, you know, eventually I think they figured out like, okay, these guys are no kidding veterans. I'm like, listen, we got a guy who is, you know, paralyzed in a wheelchair. He's to be coming here as well. And it was like alarms went off. I mean, everyone like snapped into immediate action drill. Like a ramp came out, it was like ready to go, and they just brought them up. And it was a lot of Vietnam era guys, and they're just like, you know, they just sat around and just kind of brought over some beers and put them on a table for us, and like, can you guys tell us what it's like? And it was just cool. We just had like a really cool bonding experience with guys who, you know, went through a hell of a lot more crap than we all went through, and came back to even worse scenario to the country that, you know, didn't really care for them, and they were getting everything slung back in their face, and heck, half of them were drafted. They didn't have a choice, right? So it was just a really cool bonding experience. No one really got blitzed or drunk. We just kind of all chilled out and relaxed. And, you know, it's kind of like we were saying, like, man, imagine if you did that with cannabis, you know, wouldn't have to worry about people getting DUIs or, you know, someone trying to do something or, you know, flip off safe or anything like that. Everyone just be kind of relaxed and getting things off. So that's, again, why I keep going back to the model of, hey, they do serve a purpose, just hopefully people don't abuse it. And, you know, it is tough. Alcohol is, you know, it is a viper that turns around, bites you back pretty quick sometimes without you knowing it. So, but I will say, hey, there are, you know, that was a really special moment to me and something I'll tell my kids about. It was just a really cool moment having that time in that one VFW with all those people.
All right, Council Member the George Armstrong.
All right. So yeah, as I said before, I'm not. I didn't find a lot of use with the VSOs, but I have a lot of positive experiences. Also, like Brian was saying, I'm a member, like I said before, of Veterans for Peace, but I'm not a member of these larger organizations. And I think it comes down to what we've all been saying. If I'm going to go and join a veteran organization, I'm looking for a place where I can go and feel comfortable, feel like I'm getting support and able to give support to other people who have the same experiences that I do. Pretty simple. But when I look around now, I don't really see that in the current. I mean, like Brian said, I'm sure that happens. But the vast majority of what you see when you go into them is the two old guys drinking at the bar, literally like all day. The same two guys a lot of the time. And like ATN said, the alcohol is cheap. I mean, that's what they make sure. If you go to any VFW or American Legion, it's just really cheap to drink. So they make it easy for you. So the reason I'm not in those organizations is they don't feel like they fit the need that I have. No knock against the organizations. I too, like everybody else, am waiting for them to either take out their alcohol bar and switch it out to a dab bar. Either do that or somebody start an organization where veterans of any kind can come in and have a choice, or no alcohol at all. I don't care. But what I want is a place that where what my cannabis use can be used openly, obviously. But it goes back to what these VSOs were actually set up for, and that's for support for the veteran community and for them to help the community around them. And I think in this day and age that we're going to accomplish that a lot better with a bunch of people sitting around like this, having a meeting, smoking joints and taking a dab, and not sitting around for 7 hours drinking alcohol.
Exactly. That would be a wonderful place. I dream of such places. The Pearson Crosby, council member, your thoughts?
So the question is if I'm involved with any. I guess I did answer that last time. This is the first question.
It's, are you involved with the VSO? If so, which one, why, or why not?
Yeah. So I am. I've been involved in a officer capacity in 6 or 7 of the biggest ones in the country. And yeah, you know, the reason I did it, the reason why I continue to, I had never, there were certain ones that I would like pledge I would align with, and I think it was the experience that I got when I first like the first experience with that organization, like the VFW, excuse me, the Marine Corps League. The Marine Corps League was, or is, it's still Patriots Attachment 1230 in Richboro, Pennsylvania. And I mean, it's an awesome group of guys. I mean, you got when I first came in, I was under George Kelly, who was the head narcotics detective of my township, actually, and my buddy's father, one of my best friend's father. Actually, you know, I think he was lead on the raid of my house when I was in high school, when I was growing cannabis. So he was the commandant. I was a senior vice commandant after I got out. Obviously, I turned my life around. And then my principal from junior high, who was also a Marine, Mike Lecker, awesome dude. Like, I mean, it was just John Heenan, who's absolutely one of the people that I have really tried to you know, mimic or just live up to the standards that he sets for himself. And it was just such an incredible group of gentlemen, an incredible group of Marines that, like the police chief, and it was just like everything that I could ever hope for in an organization was within the Trihampton firehouse on what is it? County Road it's not county, well, in Richboro, Pennsylvania. I mean, I think it was 5 years ago, or no, it was longer than that. 10 years ago, I'm not even going to guess, excuse me, but we gave an award, a commendation to a soldier who's also a police officer now, that I actually grew up with, one of my younger brother's friends, who cornered a stolen valor. I'm not sure if the dude was in the Army, but he was wearing, like, he was walking around the mall with like Colonel chevrons and Sergeant Major stripes, and it was just nasty. But like stuff like that, and like doing the rifle drills, and going to all the ceremonies and the parades, and it gave me a sense of purpose again, and that's something that I really needed at the time when I first got out of the Marine Corps, and it just put a you know, I guess a good taste in my mouth instead of a bad taste, because it wasn't like I wasn't seeing the stuff that we were the outreach. It was more of the internal stuff that we were together as a team, and we all were there to support each other. I mean, I still have a petition up to get Richie Gresco a Medal of Honor upgraded from a Navy Cross. He jumped on a grenade, saved a couple Marines' lives, and caught in an airstrike while he was getting evac from a firefight in Vietnam. So I mean, like Henry, I want to just name off all the guys that are in the Marine Corps League, and they're all awesome, and that's what brought me to really enjoying what the potential of a veteran service organization could be, because they showed me so much service and the dedication that, like, Pete Palestina's there every meeting with a camera, editing stuff, and posting it up, and it is just like it's motivating me again. This whole conversation is making me want to. It's revitalizing the feelings that I got when I got out, and I had something to turn to like that. And it's a shame that not everybody gets that. And I've dedicated years of my life to this. And I hope that I've been able to give that back to at least one veteran, you know, and had them, you know, not have to come into a belief that George did with the BFW recruiter, or you know, any of you that were told like, hey, you smoke cannabis, like get the hell out of here. Because I mean, it's kind of hard for me to hide the fact that I do that now, and I guess it was a different time, but I'm sorry you guys had to go through that. And it really is. It's about the leadership in the organization that allows something like that to happen, or allows it not to happen. And that's it. With everything, it's about the people. It's about the leadership. It's about the employees. It's about the volunteers and the community. And that's why I stick with it. I try to keep my head up and go through the times that are tough when it comes to the rules and regulations and the guidelines and the charters of these VSOs. So it's there.
Thank you. And yes, they are there. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of rules anymore. I don't know. I'm just too used to doing it myself. But at the same time, I just find them kind of restricting. You know, you can't go out and talk cannabis and wear your VFW hat and all kinds of shit like that. So, you know, I do. I belong to 4 different organizations: the VFW, American Legion, AMVETS, and Veterans for Peace. You know, and I'm a life member. So I donate to the VFW scholarship because I think those, again, are good things that are helping people further themselves in life. So, you know, I'm a full supporter. Realize, you know, there are good people, again, in VSOs that care. I've heard of some amazing service officers that have helped people, you know, do Herculean lifts and get all the benefits that they have and need. And so if those are something you want and have access to, that's something to go for. Unfortunately, for people like me or those that have a less than honorable, those options aren't there. You're basically left out in the cold. Sure, I guess I could become an auxiliary member. You know, those are an option, but you know, you're usually, yeah, you know, I've seen people be shamed for their military by other military, different services. So, you know, it's they have their own hierarchies. I'm not going to deny that. Realize, of course, today these are all, you know, men's perspectives. I wish we had a few women veterans here. We would welcome their perspectives on veteran service organizations from what they would like to see, because I think they're a valuable voice that isn't heard as well. And we welcome further discussion. And for you to join the Veterans Action Council, we are a group of equals. We're not an actual not-for-profit, or as much as we are a loose affiliation of, you know, venerated professionals that are trying to, you know, push the issues for access to naturopathic medicines, from cannabis to other psychedelics. So, you know, we want to do things, we want to see things happen. But you know, as you heard from all of us, and I know we represent, you know, cannabis veterans all over the United States, and I've talked with other veterans, and they have said, you know, I want a VSO that actually would allow me to smoke my cannabis. I shouldn't be made to be feeling like a second-class citizen. I still did the same service. I took the same loads. I took the same hits. You know, I took the same help psychologically? Why do I have to be treated differently because I choose to use cannabis or psychedelics or other substances as opposed to alcohol? My name's Etienne. I'm alcoholic as well, and I can be around alcohol now and not be worried about it. But if I'm there, I would feel a lot better if I had a joint in my hand or my dab rig, so I could sit down and just be accepted and have good conversations with people. One of the great things that we learned early on with the Berkeley Patients Group, which is my dispensary, is that patients sitting there talking to each other was very helpful to both the patients, because they were both expressing their discussions and fears and asking questions about their conditions and what were they using. And it has always kind of entered into the space that cannabis has always been social. You know, I used to always smoke in smoking circles. There's even rules to it. You know, you pass it to the left, don't fuck it up, don't overlip it, you know, don't cause runs, fix the runs. You know, there's all kinds of rules to it, but where it's ignored. So, you know, one of these VSOs needs to step up, and I wish it were AMVETS or DAV or American Legion or VFW. You know, I'm coming back around to you, Rico. Don't worry. But, you know, why not have smoking? You know, why not make it accessible in legal states? Why can't they apply for licenses? You know, you want people of younger generations. You're asking, even in my generation, we want you to come, but you don't provide us the atmosphere we want. So here's a suggestion of what quite a few of us would like to see. You know, isn't it worth a try? You know, what happens? Oh, you continue to fail like you're already doing, you know, at the local or regional levels, and struggling, where you could bring in a whole other access. You know, why couldn't you teach people how to grow cannabis? Why couldn't they grow clones and then teach veterans coming back from service and right out of service, and teaching them how to grow and care for plants by having a garden set up in the corner so that they can tend it and work it together? There's 30 plus states where it's medically allowed. There's 15 states where it's legally allowed. So, you know, they could actually, why couldn't they apply for an actual dispensary license and sell to the regular people, but also sell it at a discount to us veterans at the same way that they sell us the cheap alcohol? You know, there's nothing stopping it. It's except charters and, you know, whatever their bylaws are. Because if you look, every year there's a new edition and the books get thicker and thicker. So, you know, I don't know if there's a VSO that's willing to take it on, but if not, you know, there needs to be an organization created to create the idea, the concept, so that they could see it and actually access it and understand it. And I think then they would actually have that epiphany. But just talking about it, you know, one of the things I've learned as a dispensary owner, people still think that I lead them down into some lower dungeon where we actually show you the cannabis in this nefarious, you know, pillowed out room where, you know, we're going to force you to smoke pot. And then they show up and realize, oh, it's just a simple, you know, well-lit retail professional situation. So people have their own perspectives, and we veterans have perspectives, but we also have seen what's out there, and we've seen what works and doesn't work. So I would love to see, you know, that situation, you know, but I don't know if that's even a possibility because of the onerous laws and bylaws of these organizations. I mean, we talked to the American Legion, they're interested in just having the discussion. That then breaching this whole other concept is a whole kick in the door sort of situation. I mean, we just want to be able to use, but they could get access and actually do quite well for themselves because, you know, depending on what state, et cetera, there's some amazing things happening in cannabis and the diversity of cannabis and cannabis products. I mean, we've got council member Brian Buckley who's promoting his own product by making product and taking the profits from his vaporizer pens and putting them into research, you know? So there's examples of private veterans doing things that are affecting veterans as a whole that these VSOs should be taking beyond an interest in. They should be leading. It shouldn't be an individual in a company. It should be these organizations that speak for us, which means, have we been conveying this well to the VSOs? How do we educate them and take them or bring them to these levels? So I know I've just thrown kind of Pandora's box open. Rico, you had your hand up. Thrown down the gauntlets. Let's have this discussion. Here we are.
Well, I mean, I guess the cat's out of the bag now, so that's what's up. We have been working on this issue. We're going to continue to work on this issue. It's going to happen. It's not a question of if anymore. It's a question of when, and it's a question on which organization, which branded VSO is going to have the intestinal fortitude and do the right thing and lead on this, and actually open up the doors and stop discriminating against people who are rightfully members of their organizations, right? It's called discrimination, is what it is, especially when you're talking about a legal substance that the voters have already had their say on. So at the end of the day, whether or not they welcome us in, it's going to speak on their character. It's going to speak about what they're about, what they want to be about. And that's fine at the end of the day. They are private clubs. And that's the beautiful thing about it, right? And there's nothing stopping other veterans motivated. That's how the VFW started in the first place. It's how the American Legion started in the first place. They saw a need. There was a gap in services. Their needs were not being met. And so they mobilized, they organized, they got together, they identified what they needed to do to address their needs, and they went out and they did it. What did the Texas mayor recently say? Get off your ass and do it. Take care of yourself. Thank you, sir. Well, fuck you first, but we heard you loud and clear, right? We're used to taking care of ourselves, right? And so we want the individuals who are out there representing us to listen to us, right? We can engage in a sincere conversation on the merits of this and juxtapose it to what is already out there and offered, and what the results are at the end of the day. We've had plenty of time to look at what these medical programs have been able to do with respect to our health and well-being. We see prescription rates plummeting in states with legalized cannabis program, opioid use plummeting, right? People getting out more, people engaging with their families more, people being more open and honest with how they feel, actually talking about feelings, right? Getting more interested in food. I want to get back into a VSO and give that kitchen a once over. Get in there and start cooking. Get in there and start feeding my brothers and sisters. I want to be the cook. You know, hear people playing. I miss bingo, hanging out with my elders, listening to their stories. That's what I miss. And so what if my relaxation go-to is cannabis? If I'm there and I'm present and I'm there to share space and hold space with you and be there with you, and then come up with ways to, address each other's needs, but then the needs of our community, what difference should it make? What I'm personally using, exercising my freedom. Why doesn't my freedom of choice matter? Why? So it's coming. It's not a question of like if anymore, man. Get over it. Let's have a conversation. Let's sit down and let's have an adult, rational conversation.
Thank you, the Rico Prieta. We're going to go over to the Pearson Kennedy. Crosby, I know you're going to have to head out here soon, but do you want to talk about what you're cooking up there in Alaska?
Yeah. So whether or not everyone knows this, Alaska has been recreationally legalized for a few years now. program, but it's comparable, and sales are, and prices are comparable to the rest of the country's legal states, or at least medical states, when you factor in the cost for a doctor if you have to pay for that. But so what? Just to reiterate a little bit, or go off of what Rico was just saying about it, like, it's happening. We should sit down and talk about it. We need to address this, because because people are drinking their lives away, and myself included. I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't done that, or continue to go and indulge in alcohol consumption at the VFWs and elsewhere. You know, it is something that is, you know, socially acceptable. Whereas you have something that actually has a much more medicinal value than alcohol ever will, or ever has. That is also something that is a recreational substance. Where cannabis is something that is such a unique plant that it does bring people together. It does help people, and it does. It gives you some type of euphoria and relief at the same time. So it encompasses everything that alcohol does for people, without a lot of the terrible side effects. I mean, you don't get blitz, you don't get you'll fall asleep before you get anywhere close to what alcohol will do to you if you stay up and consume a lot of alcohol. And I think anybody that's ever been in the military that allows themselves to drink in the military has had one of those nights that they can't remember. And it's something that it's kind of worn as a badge of honor. It's something that's brought up within units. Or I remember when so and so got so hammered, they fill in the blank. You know, I know everybody's thinking about that one time. Where I see cannabis as more of it is. I mean, it's more refined. You're not going to go out and cause some chaos, and it's something that it should be. And I say this every time. I hate that we have to fight for this, because it doesn't make any sense. And the rationale behind the prohibition of it is ludicrous. And I mean, I see how it happened, why it happened. Anyway, what we're doing now, attempting to normalize the substance, to be able to show people that these years and years of brainwashing and false narratives, it's counterintuitive to the rest of our human existence, even, and the best we can do as veterans, as who we are, is we just need to be able to normalize it. And where I'm getting at is the more and more programs that we have as veterans, the better, the more it's going to flood out there. Because veterans are throughout the in the United States, obviously, but we're able to touch so many communities. And with Alaska up here, I'll divert back to what I should be talking about, is I'm the development director of the Alaska Veterans Foundation. Our mission is to end veterans' homelessness and suicide in the state. Homelessness is, you know, if you're homeless in Alaska during this time of year, you're very well screwed with a, yeah, capital S. And we have a project going. It's a 54-acre property that will have transitional housing, job training, things that will give a veteran, hopefully give a veteran purpose, a sense of camaraderie again. Along with partnering up with the whole community and getting these you know, forgotten souls back on their feet. Now we're taking baby steps, and I don't want to say my own disbelief, because I thought they brought me on, that is the Alaska Veterans Foundation, because I was involved with cannabis, and they were aligned with the Alaska University of Fairbanks Agriculture Department to experiment with hemp or cannabis or THC levels. Excuse me. I get confused when I start talking about hemp and cannabis, because cannabis is, I don't get confused, but how to actually appropriately determine which is which, you know. I mean, hemp and cannabis, but hemp is cannabis. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent with words right now. But I gave a presentation. It turns out they weren't actually bringing me on to start growing cannabis at their facility. They actually just wanted to bring me on because I was. They saw me as someone that's a go-getter. But I ended up proposing a strategy for fundraising that involved training veterans in how to grow cannabis, both as medicines and as in the industry. And Alaska is pretty unique with the industry. We are pretty close with our community boards and our control boards for cannabis. So they unanimously voted yes on it, the board, the Alaska Veterans Foundation board. And we're hoping to start funneling veterans through to teach them how to properly grow their own medicine, teach them entrepreneurial values, and empower them to go back to their communities and start a business or get into the industry that's standing in their respective states, and really try to infect the country with, you know, well-trained individuals that are veterans, that are knowledgeable about the industry, are knowledgeable about the plant, and of the medicine, the medicinal values of the medicine. So it's something that's on my mind all the time, and I'm just I get, you know, a little caught up when I'm talking about it, because it's something that I really have on my mind all the time. So I see that as being a step forward to normalization, to show that this is such a unique opportunity with something that isn't as bad as it says it was, as it was shown to be, and it actually will better communities. It will strengthen communities. It will strengthen families. It will strengthen the individual veteran. They're all across the board. I can't rationally think of anything that will be harmed that is already positive. I mean, the only thing I feel like that's going to be harmed is maybe the alcohol industry or the pharmaceutical companies that are just, you know, killing us. And yeah, I'm sorry if I'm being long-winded, but it's still hard for me to talk on this, because literally all day long, that's all I'm thinking about is getting this project going and getting everything moving. And so I have all these key points that I want to bring up, but I'm not going to right now. But I really appreciate the time here, and this is a really, really good topic. I am absolutely, like, you know, I lost that sense of why I am a part of veteran service organizations, and this is exactly it, to help the veterans and to be able to, from the inside, change the path that it's going. And most of them are going, you know, in a non-survivable way right now. So this really, hearing everybody's thoughts on this and their experiences really helped me. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate being here, and I appreciate all you.
And we appreciate you as well, Pearson. You're awesome, and we wish you luck and success. And your passion comes through because of how also deep you've thought about what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. So you're doing it for the right reasons, and you want to do it the right way, so you care. And, you know, we got to understand that, you know, these veterans organizations and USAA and all these other things were created by veterans for veterans, because they weren't getting serviced. They weren't seeing what they wanted to see. So they created it. So, you know, that option's there. That discussion is possible. And so I think what you also are potentially could create in Alaska could become a national role model for you know, people all over the country. So we wish you continued success and much love and mad respect. So with that, I will come over to Council Member D. Brian Buckley. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, you guys got me now? All right, something weird happened there. So there's a time when I was in Afghanistan, and there's a grunt battalion, and you know, in much of the wars we were fighting now, the biggest threat was improvised explosive devices, or IEDs. And this, you know, this grunt group, there's a squad was going on patrol, and they, you know, at the end, the squad leader's like, listen, someone's gonna get killed on this, and someone's gonna lose their legs, so let's get it over with. And a couple of my guys were there observing them. They're just like, holy heck. And you know, there's a lot of times in life, not just combat, in life, you know, you can't control the who, what, where, when, or why, but you always have an option with the how, and it's how you go about your business and how you're going to start doing things. And, you know, and I look at what we're going to accomplish. Do I think the current VSOs right now are going to? No. I think we're sprinting, and I believe they're trying to catch up to us. They got a lot of, you know, political ties, and I don't care what side of the spectrum you are politically, but I think we all can agree nothing moves fast with the government. And, you know, I sit here and think about, you know, on this day back in 1945, Medal of Honor recipient John Basselin was killed in the first day of the Battle of Iwo Jima. He was awarded the Medal of Honor during Guadalcanal in the Battle of Henderson Field. And after, I mean, you guys just go and check him out. I mean, it's an amazing story of what he did out there, fighting a wave after wave after wave after wave, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, of Japanese fighters coming at them. And he was awarded the Medal of Honor in Australia in I think May of '43 by Chesty Puller, which I couldn't imagine the sight for those Marines and sailors that they could even comprehend what they were seeing. Chesty Puller putting a Medal of Honor on John Vasselon. I mean, like two legendary Marines, two legendary American warfighters. And when that happened, the big thing that we needed at America at that time was money for the war. And they sent him back to basically do a tour to raise war bonds. And the guy was just a straight up Marine warrior. And he eventually said, I'm not a museum piece. I need to be back with my Marines and get back into the fight. And he went back to Pendleton. He trained up a platoon. He was a gunnery sergeant at the time and took them over. And first day of Iwo Jima, first time we went in onto Japanese territory. Some of you don't know what Iwo Jima is. You probably know the iconic flag raising of the Marines and sailors putting up the flag on top of Mount Suribachi. That was Iwo Jima. And, as much as we wish there would never be war and, no American would ever have to go see the things that we've all seen, it's just not how this republic is. And it's just not how the war is. And it has to be earned with the blood of American warriors, unfortunately. And I guess what drives me, and I know it drives all of us here, is, I wanted to have that VSO set up where now a veteran has an option of, do I go to a VSO that does this? Or do I go to a VSO that allows cannabis and all that? The how do you want to go about your healing? And that's what gets me up every morning. That's what drives me. And, I always go to bed at night thinking, what have I done for a veteran today? And we're going to do it. I mean, we've already done things where people said, there's no way you're going to do that. All my life, people told me I can't do something. That drives me. That motivates me. And I'll go out and do it. And I roll with all of you, and we're all going to do it. So I know at the end of the day, we're going to be there, and, there will be a new torch passed to the next generation like us, and we're going to change the how for these guys. So that's all I got.
Thank you very much. And yes, in fact, we have gone plaid. That's where we are. Thank you for joining us in our discussion. As you know, we discussed some concepts and ideas. I know that every veteran out there has had a different experience with the VSO, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We also know that there have been others created by generationally, like the American IAVW, different organizations such as that. So, if you don't like what's out there, create what you want to see. That's a great thing about America, of concepts and ideas. But at the same time, if those VSOs do fit within and are able to provide you the things, then support them, join them, go down to the local if that's for you. We're not saying don't support or go or be part of. If anything, if we've give you concepts on how they build community and how they also work at the local level and how they affect lives in such a positive manner. A lot of veterans come back and they're very fearful of what they have to go through because the VA system is extremely daunting. It is not an easy thing to go through, and any veteran you talk to tells you on how much of a hard thing it is you're about to go through. So it's intimidating. So these groups help needle and help take you through these steps and can help you get the benefits you have. Now, they haven't helped everybody. I know people that, have met at, realities that they didn't necessarily expect, but, that's the chances. That's the reality of what we face. And we don't know what we have access to until we try. Someday maybe I'll go back and try the VA again, but, maybe I won't. That's an option I have because of the healthcare system that we have. But at the same time, many people are completely reliant on the system and they need to figure out how to get through, and these VSOs can do so. So, check in, make yourself aware of what's going on, plug in if you can, buy those tickets when you hear in the spring when they're having, they're doing chicken or they're doing hamburgers or barbecues or things like that. They mean a lot. They mean a lot to those local organizations. And I wasn't able to find that in one. I hope that in the future, one of these organizations listens to what we're talking about and maybe makes it accessible for us so that you know, we can actually go and enjoy some hot dogs and hamburgers and then sit down and smoke a joint without being made to feel like less than a human being. It shouldn't happen. I agree. It is something that we've suffered enough. We don't need to be made to feel any less like second-class citizens than we already do. The VA does a good job of that for us. With that in mind, I want to thank all of our council members for joining us tonight. Rico Prieta, George Armstrong, Brian Buckley, Tony Landry, Michael Krawitz, Pearson, Kennedy Crosby, and I am the ATN Fontan. I want to thank you for joining us in our little fun with the word "the" tonight. It's our special word. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks from now for Veterans Action Council Roundtable number 11. So I want to appreciate every single one of you. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget we have it also saved on our YouTube page. So you can go to our YouTube and check out any of our older videos. These are also available on our Facebook page. And we appreciate you all. And more than anything, we appreciate our freedom. And we would like our freedoms to just be exercised freely. So thank you very much. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Good night, everyone.